YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with updated power rankings heading into week 7 of the NFL. We update these every single Tuesday. Very important, they're not predictions. We update them every week, so it's week by week. If your team wins, they'll most likely go up. If your team loses, they'll most likely go down, depending on what's happening with the other teams, obviously. If a team gets really hot, they'll most likely rise to the top there. So again, we're updating these every week. Really enjoy making this video during the year. Plenty of other content as well. We got weekly picks every Tuesday night, score predictions every Wednesday, a lot more NFL action every single day up until the games. And we have a Patreon with extra content. The Twitter is constant NFL talk, talking during live games. Instagram, podcast, 60K. That's your subscriber goal. Please help us get there by subscribing. It'll be well worth it. We got you covered. Everything, even in the offseason. We got a trade deadline coming up, so we'll cover that. Possible trades. We'll grade some trades as well. We got you covered, like I said. So we much appreciate it if you can subscribe. Patreon has a whole bunch of content. Junior's currently in the lead in the Goat House. He's doing very well with his picks. He has his score predictions on the Patreon, so you're going to want to check those out every week there. Usually go up earlier on Thursday, if not late Wednesday. My locks of the week, bets of the week, been doing very well on those over-unders against the spreads, teams that are guaranteed to win. College football, similar things, money line against the spread picks and in score predictions. Updated playoff predictions will start probably later this week. I'll predict the playoff field and round-by-round games, and then we'll update those every single week. Bonus content, Discord access, much more on the Patreon. Link in the description. Check it out. You also support us by joining this. A lot of you have. Really appreciate you. The Week 7 power rankings. The Jets are at number 32 still. I don't think anybody expected them to move up, so we're going to move on. 31, Washington football team is down 3 spots. They find themselves in that lucky spot there next to the Jets. After that performance against the Giants, a game you think either team, if you're rooting for one team or the other, you think you probably should win that game. In the way the Giants, I talked about in the recap, the way the Giants played that game basically was to not lose. They played to punt the ball. They played so Daniel Jones didn't have to drop back a bunch of times because they were worried about Washington's pass rush. So the Giants really didn't feel like they played to win that game, and Washington still lost. So Washington's definitely deserving of being down there with the Jets, even though they do have a win. And maybe that'll be the difference on why they're ahead of the Jets there. Jags down 1 spot to 30, so they're finding themselves down here. Pretty much the only difference here why they're 30 and not number 31 is what I explained. Washington, a game they probably should have won, and they didn't. But the Jags are kind of heading back to where we thought they would be. So they're at number 30 after a disappointing loss against the Lions. 29 is the Giants. Yeah, they won the game, so they're up 2 spots. Definitely got to hop ahead over these teams. Not really thrilled with how they played. They didn't really play to win that game, and they're pretty fortunate to come out with a win in that game. But at the end of the day, they won the game, and they definitely got to move ahead of those 2 teams. So they're up 2 spots. One of them, probably the most disappointing team on the year, actually, the Minnesota Vikings, down 7 spots, a whopping 7 spots, losing to an 0-5 Falcons team. Not only that, but losing in pretty pathetic fashion. Couldn't stop them on defense, 40 points put up, but they really couldn't get anything going on offense. I keep talking about it might even be generous that they had 7 points when it kind of mattered, when they were still in the game. Not being able to move the ball easier, not being able to control the football, and then giving up points on defense like that, giving up it's all of it's pretty pathetic, honestly. So they're back here, which we saw them here at one point in the season, 28, down 7 spots. Next, the Bengals down 1 spot. A game they probably should have won. Yeah, it's kind of a tough game. The Colts seem like a pretty good team this year. They started off 21-0, and they should have been able to close that out. They should have been able to win that game pretty much, and they couldn't really do it. Joe Burrow played a pretty good game in terms of making the big throws, completing the ball. And it's more on Zach Taylor for kind of the play calling down the stretch, but just Joe Burrow, when they're still in the game, has that interception, so I want to see him close it out, but I think his coaching staff kind of put him in a little tougher spot, but down 1 spot for the Bengals, a game they probably should have won. 26, the Texans, down 3 spots. Yes, they play a very good team in the Titans, a very winnable game. Impressed with their offense. Their defense is at the bottom of the NFL here. Maybe not the very worst, but it's down there. Still down 3 spots. Another loss for them. Still only 1 win on the year. For number 25, the Falcons are up 5 spots, so moving up a pretty good amount here. Still overall, the resume not too good, but coming off a win after firing Dan Quinn. A game most people expected them to lose against the Vikings, but really giving it to them too. Really dominating that game, so that helps them move up a good amount here, 5 spots. But we need to see a little more to get in that next tier of teams, obviously. 24, the Chargers haven't had too much movement. Having a bye week kind of played into that. At the end of the day, they are on a pretty big losing streak, but kind of have looked somewhat impressive doing that. But again, at the end of the day, they are on a losing streak, so let's see if they can bounce back. They're playing the Jaguars, number 30 this week, so I want to see them win this game. If they can't close out this game, there's a problem. There's a big problem, and pretty much them looking impressive during this losing streak kind of goes out the window then. So it's a must win here. But they're going to stay put at 24 after the bye week there. That's really not why, that plays a part. But other teams, what's going around with them obviously plays a part as well. Eagles down 1 spot. Really, they put up a fight against the Ravens. They really adjusted as the game went on. I thought Wentz played better as the game went on. That's a really good team. They almost, had. But, still a lot of sloppy play, probably due to injuries. But at the end, you can't just subtract that. You have injuries. You're losing games, a little sloppy early on. I disagree with the 2-point conversion attempt call earlier in that game. That kind of hurt them. But, they're down 1 spot. Not a good season for them. I just couldn't, penalize them too much, but it's mainly what's going on around them here. Moving on to 22, the Cowboys down 5 spot. Extremely disappointing loss to the Cardinals. Yes, they were very beat up, but you think they would play a little better in that. Not happy with the way Dalton played, not happy with Zeke, not happy with the play calling in general, not happy with the defense in general. Not the best game. Down 5 spots, and if they continue to play like that, they'll find themselves going towards the bottom there. Maybe in the Jeffs. That's the second time I called them the Jeffs. Maybe that's just their new name. The Jets area there, range of the power rankings. So that's not good, but that would be predicting. If they continue to play like that based on the way Andy Dalton played, again they could find themselves down there. But we'll see. Time will tell. There, disappointing loss there. I think they could get some things going on offense still. I think, rough game for Dalton. But we're going to see. 21, Lions up 4 spots. A game you expect them to win. They did win in dominating fashion. Now let's see if they can get consistent. Let's see if they can get a streak going. But they're up 4 spots because, they won a game. Cowboys lose, Eagles lose. Teams like the Texans, Bengals, Vikings, they're able to move down. So they're mainly going up because it's good. It's a positive. It's good to win like that. So I guess combined with other teams really needing to move down below them is what goes into that for the most part there. Big Falcons, 21 versus 25. It's a big game for both teams to kind of just get rolling. It's kind of good to have that game for both those teams right now. Winnable games, but obviously not easy. So I'm looking forward to that one. Actually, that should be a pretty good game. Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford. I think it's a pretty even battle there. We're going to see. 20 is the Patriots down a whopping 7 spots. Now, again, I talk about all the time. These aren't predictions. My power rankings. I think some people do that for some reason. I can't tell you why. But if I had to predict, I think the Patriots will end up better than 20. But when it's all said and done, coming off that game against the Broncos, that is a sloppy game. They were in the game, but they really got dominated in that game. Extremely sloppy. Again, I think they'll kind of get out of that short funk that they're in, that small funk. But that would be an assumption. That would be prediction. I think you have to move down, quite a bit. Another loss for them. Their resume is not looking as strong maybe anymore. Maybe the Dolphins would make it looking a little better, but down 7 spots after that. Disappointing game. They're favored by a lot. Expected to win, and just extremely sloppy, extremely disappointing. So we'll see if they get out of that. I almost expect them to, but this is where they belong for now. Number 20, 19 is the Broncos up 8 spots. So you see. Now the Broncos kind of back up where I kind of expected them to be. They get Drew Lock back, and they're definitely a much better team. He's still got some things to work on, a little sloppy play. They need to get the ball in the end. They definitely need to get in the end zone. Receivers need to catch the ball as well. But the defense really getting going. They're making plays in the right moments. Phillip Lindsay getting going. So that's a big-time win against a pretty good Patriots team there. And it felt like they dominated that game. That's kind of a positive and negative at the same time because, yes, they dominated a pretty good team, but you need to make it more comfortable. You need to put them away. You need to put the ball in the end zone. But, with all these other teams needing to move down, Patriots, Cowboys, Eagles, Falcons, I mean, not Falcons, Texans, teams like that. That definitely helps them boost up on top of them getting an impressive win. Both those combined would be a reason that they're up 8 spots. So some hope there for the Broncos. Tough division, but some hope there as they get a little healthier there. Next, 18, Panthers down 4 spots. A little disappointing loss. They were on a streak. The Bears defense maybe was a little too much for them. Again, another one where it's kind of positive and negative. Overall negative. You lost and you were pretty sloppy. But they looked that sloppy in that game. They looked like they were not on their game at all. And they still were kind of in the game. They had a shot, even though the Bears controlled that game. So I guess you can take a positive away from that. But yeah, still the resume is looking. They haven't had the most important wins. The best wins out there. A couple solid ones. Don't get me wrong, but still that streak is still there. I know they're coming off a loss, so they're down 4 spots for now. 18. Big game against the Saints this week. I think that one could actually go either way. It could be closer than people think. So we'll see what we have for picks tonight. 17. The Niners up 3 spots. It's a very impressive win against the Rams. A very impressive win. I give a lot of credit to Shanahan for that game plan. I think Jimmy G stepped up, played well. Mostert played well when he was healthy. Defense, Verrett and Mosley played extremely well in terms of the cornerbacks there. So overall, a team win there, really good. That's an impressive win. That'll get you boosted up. 3 spots is a pretty good amount. I think the teams in front of them, it's hard to have them hop some of these 16 teams in front of them. Especially you got to start splitting hairs when it's really close. Looking the resume as a whole, those last 2 disappointing losses still play a little bit of a part there, but a very impressive win against the Rams. And that'll get them up 3 spots here, knocking on the door to get in that next tier of teams. So we'll see if the Niners have figured it out, see if they're back on track here. A big game against the Patriots, 17-20. That's a big-time game. Can't wait for that. 16 is the Dolphins. They're on a roll, and it just came out just moments ago, maybe an hour ago, that Tua Tagovailoa will now be the starter. So Fitzpatrick is winning. He's playing pretty well, and he is getting benched. I feel like this was decided before the year. It is a little odd. It's either just start him or you don't, But at least he's not getting thrown into a bad situation. That's the upside here. And I definitely believe in Tua, but will this throw off chemistry? How will this affect the team? They have a bye week, so it's good to prepare. But they're looking good. They look like a pretty sneaky team. I've been calling that for some time here this year. Pretty sneaky team. I think they have the ability to beat anybody, but they could sneak up and lose to anybody. Not almost anybody. They weren't close to losing to the Jets there. But yeah, it's a sneaky good team on both sides of the ball, really. So they're looking pretty good. They're up 3 spots there. The Jets win. There's not a whole bunch of value in the Jets win. A win does have some value, any type of win in the NFL. But it's mainly what they've been doing and what they've been showing me will help them move up 3 spots and a little bit of a streak going there. So it looks pretty good there. 16 for them. 15 is going to be the Rams. They're down 5 spots, so pretty big drop. Losing to the Niners, a pretty disappointing game. Wish they would have got some more offense going. Wish Goff would have hit some more throws early, but then his receivers didn't help him out late. They dropped the ball. Defensively, they got outpowered, I thought. They couldn't really stop the run. The Niners didn't have a whole bunch of rushing yards, but that doesn't show how well they ran the ball on the Rams. It affected them big time. It kind of kept them on their toes about the other plays and kind of let Jimmy G throw on them a little bit. They got beat up in that game. They actually had a shot at the end because it shows that they're a good enough team where they're playing sloppy. They could still be in games, but they played pretty sloppy. So they're going to drop for that. I think maybe a mismatch problem, so they may match up better against other teams that actually might be better than Niners, so I'm not really panicking for them or anything. But they are down 5 spots. That's a pretty disappointing loss. But still, overall, the resume is looking pretty decent. Most of their wins are against teams that you expect them to win against, though. So they're down to 15, pretty big drop. 14 is the Cardinals, up 4 spots, not only beating the Cowboys, but dominating the Cowboys. The Cardinals, that is. Cowboys are pretty beat up, but it's in Dallas, and you don't really know what to expect. How's the game plan? What are they going to do here? And they were lights out. Offense was, Kyler Murray was actually off target. He had some open receivers, missed some throws, but other than that, he played pretty well. Running the ball, hitting the big time throws when it mattered. I thought Kenyon Drake finally went off. He had a pretty good game there. Receivers had a good game. Defensively, I think a well-coached game. I'm not a big Vance Joseph fan, but it was a well-coached game by him. A lot of good blitz packages, blitz calls there. They really got after it. Guys like Budda Baker had a monster game. Hassan Reddick was everywhere. There's quite a few guys that were everywhere there for them. So that was a big-time win for them in dominating fashion, so that'll help. Still kind of sticking with me is those losses you don't really expect to have, against the Lions, against the Panthers. Maybe those teams are better than we expected, but Cardinals are one of those teams. Definitely one of those teams I think can beat anybody, even can dominate almost anybody, and then they can pretty much lose to anybody. So big game against Seahawks this week. I think they match up well, but does that overcome the Seahawks are the better team? So that's going to be interesting to see what we pick in that game, because that actually is a really good one. So the Cardinals, in dominating fashion, move up 4 spots. Want to see them add a little more to the resume, though, obviously. But a pretty good week here for the power ranks for them. 13's the Colts, up 3 spots. A little sloppy against the Bengals. They start off pretty poor. A game that you expect them to handle, even though I did like the matchup for the Bengals. But a great comeback. So how do you balance that? Look pretty, they could have lost that game. If it's a better team, they probably lose that game. But a comeback that most teams really can't do, it doesn't really matter who you're playing. So that was impressive. They got some offense, consistent offense down the stretch going. So that was impressive. So, you kind of back and forth there. At the end of the day, they won. They impressed me in multiple ways. They're going to be up 3 spots here after that loss last week against the Browns, going into the Bengals game, winning that one. So they're up 3 spots to number 13 there. Number 12 is going to be the Saints. They had a bye week. They're going to stay put. No real reason to move them up or down here based on what's going on around them. They're going to stay put because of that. Big game against the Panthers this week. 11, the Browns. The Browns are going to be down 3 spots. Disappointing loss against the Steelers. Steelers, one of the top teams in football. And they got dominated. So that definitely plays a part. Them dropping down more than maybe a spot or 2 and then there being 3. Resume still looks pretty good. They've impressed me at times. It's a team that's got to establish a run and stay up in games or stay in games, to win. So that's kind of the downfall of the Browns. It's kind of the negative of the Browns. But still, the resume still looks pretty good for the most part, but that's a pretty bad loss. So they're going to drop down 3 spots. Hopefully they can recover from that here. They recovered from the Ravens game, so no reason why they shouldn't. Number 10 is going to be the Raiders. They had a bye, but they're actually going to be up 1 spot. I think the Browns, losing like that was enough to move them down past the Raiders. I don't think it was enough for them to move down 4 spots against another bye team, the Saints. The Saints have been, even though they're on their way up, they have been a little sloppy at times. So I think the Browns' resume is still, a bit better there. But yeah, the Raiders, especially, I think the Raiders having that Chiefs game, I think, kind of got to compare some things here. I think that was enough to having that to move them up ahead of the Browns, even though the Raiders didn't play. So they're at number 10. Number 9 is gonna be the Bills, down 2 spots. Yes, they're on a 2-game losing streak. They didn't look too good in those 2 games. They played the Chiefs and the Titans. But we're at the point of the season where you kind of have an identity on teams, so maybe there's not as much movement. A lot of teams moved, and they'll kind of be like that. But the Bills are a good enough team. They've shown me that it's tough to move them down a whole bunch. But yeah, at the end of the day, they lost 2. And they got to pick it up. So they are down, and they're outside that first tier of teams there, and they're down to number 9. Number 8, back to number 8. They were here a couple weeks ago. The Buccaneers up 7 spots, a dominating win against the Packers. And we see the Bucs, I talked about before the season, they're going to get better as the season goes on. And here they go. It's a dominating win on the team that was number 1. It was the best team in football up to that point. They look great offensively. They look fantastic on defense. They put a full game together, and they look dominant. That's a big-time win that'll get you back up here at number 8 here. And you see them getting kind of closer to full strength, getting Godwin back, getting guys like that back. So that's good. That's good to see there. 7's the Bears. They're up 2 spots. The Bears continue to roll a pretty good statement win against the Panthers. The Bears defense is really rolling. Early in the year they looked solid, but it was a little underwhelming. It's like we know the Bears defense can be better than this, but like I always say, elite defenses don't really show up early in seasons, and that is exactly what happened here with the Bears. So they're really starting to get going, and they're really rising to the top, and that's really helping their team in general. I thought the offense looked pretty good really early. I want to see them put a full game together still, and they need to get the running game going, but overall, they're winning. They're looking good. The defense is looking great. So they are up 2 spots to number 7. Big game, 7 versus 15. Monday Night Football. Defensive battle. Bears versus Rams. Excited for that one. Can't wait to see who we pick in tonight's picks for that, but I think I know who 2 of the guys are going to pick. 6, the Packers were number 1. They fall down 5 spots to number 6. A little bit have to do with what they did, but the other teams within the top 5, obviously, They played pretty well as well. So a little mixture of that. But yeah, getting dominated like that kind of moves down. It kind of makes the rest of the resume on who they beat and make that look not as good. That doesn't look as strong. Those wins don't look as strong, but they dominated. They played like the best team in football, so that still means something as well. But they're going to move down 5 spots after that disappointing loss in disappointing fashion. But I'm not really too worried for the rest of the regular season for the Packers. I think they'll make their way back up. It's kind of tough to do, though, because we have top-tier teams here. If these teams continue to win, it's tough to move these teams. But, yeah, after a loss like that, they're going to move down to number 6 here. But still in the top-tier group of teams. 5's the Ravens. They move up a spot. A little scary against the Eagles. Honestly, I haven't been super impressed. I know they're a very good team. I know they will be when it's all said and done, but I haven't been that impressed with the Ravens. Overall, they're winning, so that's great. That's why they move up a spot. Little scary situation there in that Eagles game. They had it under control, but hopefully a team that'll pick it up, because when you play the contenders, you're going to have to play a little better, but they're going to be up 1 spot to number 5. Number 4, the Chiefs are going to stay put. It's a good win against the Bills in Buffalo. Obviously a downpour of a game. They got the job done. It got a little interesting at one point, but I felt like they controlled most of this game. I wish they could have put it away a little earlier like they should have, but they controlled this game. They outplayed the Bills pretty much the whole game. So, they'll stay put at 4. That Raiders loss being in there, just kind of fresh still a week ago, still plays a part, but they're at 4. 3, the Seahawks are going to stay put. Another team that their resume is starting to not look as good, but at the end of the day, and there's no free wins in the NFL, maybe unless it's the Jets. So they're undefeated. They're looking obviously top tier contender at this point of the year, but they just fresh off a bye week there, so they're going to stay put at number 3. There's really no reason to move them up here, obviously. Number 2, this is very tough between number 1 and 2, but I got the Steelers moving up 3 spots to number 2. We could talk about both these teams. I got the Titans moving up 1 spot. They moved to number 2 last week, and now they're up to number 1. The Steelers look like the most balanced team in football. Top-tier defense right now. Offense is getting going. They're up 3 spots to number 2, so that's a lot of movement for being within the top. Anything is a lot of movement when you're up here at the top. But yeah, people kind of worried about their resume. Maybe why they weren't at the top. I wasn't really worried about it. Just because you played bad teams doesn't mean you're not good. I thought that was idiotic for people to say. But it is tough. If other teams have better statement wins, more dominating wins, it's easier to move them up. But now they get one against the Browns. That is a big-time win. The Browns have been on fire. That's a good team, and they dominate them. So that'll move you up 3 spots to number 2. Almost enough to move them to number 1. But the Titans continue to roll. And remember, the Titans have that Bills win. The Bills were undefeated at that time, and they dominated them. So they both have that win of the Bills. The Browns a little more impressive. The Titans won, and they were already at number 2. And I think the Steelers are pretty balanced. The Titans offensive league, I think at this moment they've shown me they've had the most dominant, the best offense in football, so that plays a part as well. And they're up to number 1. Now again, these aren't predictions. Taylor Lewan, who was a star left tackle, big piece for the Titans, went down. So how will that affect that offense? How will that affect the Titans going forward? You can definitely debate that. It definitely hurts them a bit. So will they continue to keep this number 1 spot, this top tier spot? Well, guess what? 1 versus 2 this week. Titans versus Steelers. It was supposed to be played a few weeks ago because the Rona. It was not. So push back a bit here. We get offense. Top tier offense. I think the best, to me, the best, I'd call them based on what they've done, the best offense in football versus based on what they've done, the best defense in football. I'm really looking forward to that. They both lost key players with Taylor Lewan, Devin Bush. I wish that didn't happen, obviously. So it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to that. Looking forward to see what we got in our picks. But 1 versus 2. So one of these teams is going to be 1 next week, and one's going to drop down a little bit. Obviously, you can't really plummet for something like that. Well, I guess we'll see what the other teams do and how that game goes. But the winner of that game, Titans Steelers, will be number 1. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be good to see there. So a lot. Mentioning the games that are going to happen this week, a lot of big games for the NFL and having to do with these power rankings this week. So I'm really excited about that. We'll have you covered with picks, score predictions, plenty more, even on the Patreon, and then we'll be back to recap it all and do it all over again. The power rankings, plenty more. So please subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. We got you covered. Smash that like button if you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, your rankings in the comments. Would love to see you guys kind of start debating those in the comments there for some friendly debates. Always good to see. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.